Hey friends, tonight we slip into the quiet hours after the loudest day, the night he became unstoppable. If your mind is busy, dim the lights. Let a fan hum softly in the corner and settle in. If this kind of gentle history helps you drift off, subscribe only if you truly enjoy it. And tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now breathe in and out. We'll take it slowly. Congratulations. You've woken in the autumn of 331 BCE, somewhere between the dusty plain of Gaugamela and the road to Arbela. Good news, the shouting has finally stopped. Bad news, the silence is full of everything the shouting left behind. The moon is thin, the stars are sharp as spearheads. Out on the darkened flats, the last glow of braziers pricks the night like scattered villages. Horses shift and sigh. Leather creaks. A shield slides down a tent wall with the tired clatter of a day that has done too much. To your left, Macedonian tents loll in a crooked line as if sleep itself pitched them. Cloaks hang from guy ropes like tired birds. The earth smells of trampled time and warm dust, sour ale and singed wool, bronze that kept its edge, and men who barely did. Somewhere close, a surgeon's lamp winks. He is quiet now, hands slack, a bowl of water black as obsidian. He has nothing clever left to do, only bandages and waiting. You step carefully. The ground remembers, a heel gouge here, a broken javelin there, a flattened wreath someone wore for courage and then forgot. There's a Persian arrowhead in the soil, glassy and moon-bitten, a fragment of chariot tire, a tassel torn from a royal standard that looked immortal around noon. Tales of gods are easy in the morning. By midnight, it's just sandal, strap and grit. Alexander's camp is not loud. Victory has its own discipline. The companion cavalry lie like a row of felled oaks, cloaks pulled over noses, faces salted with dust. Their horses crop what grass they can find, reins looped low, ears flicking at moths. The phalanx sleeps in knotted 3s and 4s, sarissas stacked like bare winter trees, long shadows jabbing the sky. From near the royal tent comes a subdued murmur, scribes at work, voices low, words measured. A still life of empire in pencil lines, names, messages, promises, instructions, sketched on papyrus while the ink will still flow in the cold. Picture him in the torchlight, cheekbones lit, eyes bright the way a storm front is bright. He has washed the blood from his face, but not from the day. His cuirass, lion-headed, iron-breathed, leans against a pole like something that would prefer to keep going. On the table, figs, a heel of bread, a map scored with charcoal, a cup of water he keeps forgetting to drink. Every arrow he draws now points along a road that no governor, no gate can hold shut. He dictates in a level voice, as if speaking too loudly might wake the wrong god. To cities ahead, Babylon, Susa, assurances of mercy if the gates open, reminders of what happens if they don't. Merciful if opened, merciless if barred. The rhythm of a campaign that will not be checked. To his mother, a sentence shaped like a son who knows she's already heard. To the Greek states, a line about freedom that will sound glorious from a distance. The night smells faintly of sesame oil and smoke. Somewhere a lyre is being tuned poorly, which is its own kind of comfort. A priest of Ammon has set a small altar by a cartwheel, 2 coals, a pinch of incense, a whisper of thanks to the desert god who spoke at Siwa and made a prince feel more than mortal. The seer Aristander, white cloak grey with dust, squints at the stars as if their arrangement might politely yield tomorrow. Perhaps he has told the king already. Omens good, omens great, omens exactly as needed when men are tired and momentum must be carried like a heavy child. No one uses the word world, not yet. The men think in smaller circles, a blanket that reaches their feet, a letter to someone who still calls them by their childhood name, a mended sandal that will hold for another day. A Thracian snores. A boy from Orestis turns his helmet into a pillow and dreams of trout that gleam like new minted coins. A veteran from Sharonea wakes, counts to 7, his wife taught him that, then sleeps again. Simple rituals, stitched into the hem of courage. Further off, the captured Persian baggage stands under guard,
carts like beached ships, their wheels bandaged with rope. A scatter of gilt that looks less like treasure and more like the noise of someone's life yesterday. Emblems of kingship wrapped hastily in cloth. A parasol rib, a broken sceptre that once felt heavier than it was. This is what happens to certainties. They become objects. The empire that faced the sun all morning now fits into wagons and rumours. Look up. Orion has climbed to the height of a standard. The Pleiades shiver as if the night were water. The world is very large, and because it is night, it feels even larger. Somewhere out there, Darius rides with a handful of loyal men, the hoofbeats running thin, the silk of a cloak cold on a neck that has not yet admitted defeat. Roads lead to Arbella, roads lead to Babylon, roads lead everywhere, and all of them, by some quiet arithmetic, now run towards the man by the torchlight. Breathe in, dust, horse, cooling bronze. Breathe out, the field is a page, and the ink is dry. Tomorrow the letters will go, the standards will move, and the world will pretend it understands what happened. Tonight, it is just night. And there, under the thin moon, a 20-something king listens to his camp sleep and learns the sound of a continent turning over and realizing it won't roll back. Chapter 2. The King's Table. Letters, Mercy, and the March Ahead. If you're still awake, rest your shoulders, let the breath slow. The braziers have settled to quiet suns, and the royal tent is a theatre of parchment and shadows. This is not glory's roar. It is its admin. Victory has minutes, hours, and postage. Scribes sit cross-legged with reed pens, their fingers stained the colour of figs, a tray of sand to set the ink, wax seals cooling in neat rows like small moons. One clerk murmurs names, Babylon, Susa, Ecbatana, while another tallies horses, pack animals, spare spearheads, barley rations, the number of litters needed for the wounded whose friends refuse to leave them behind. Unstoppable is not a sprint. It is logistics that never sleeps. Alexander stands, not sits. He prefers to move, to sketch paths with the flat of his hand. He speaks softly, a cadence learned from Aristotle and long days in the field. Reason, decision, reminder. Proclamations, he says, to the satraps who will want to be first to bow, to those who will pretend to think about it, and to those who will think about pretending. The tent smiles. He is not cruel, he is exact. Mercy is cheaper than sieges, and faster too, if it's believed. So the letters say what they must. Keep your offices, keep your customs, keep your temples open, your markets busy, your taxes tidy. Swear by your gods and mine that my garrison shall be housed, fed, and obeyed. Open your gates, bring the keys, offer water for the horses, and your city will wake tomorrow vastly richer for the lack of flames. Fail, and the gods will forgive you if they wish, but my men won't. The quills move, wax warms, the campaign acquires a tone, merciful if opened, merciless if barred. An officer steps in, Hephaestion, dust soft at the edges, eyes still carrying the day. The wounded? Alexander asks. Hephaestion has a list. Surgeons assigned by company, waterskins refilled. A Persian physician of good repute brought in under guard to consult without fear. Alexander nods once. He knows what stories do. A king who visits the wounded writes himself into them. He will go later with a lamp, speak a line to each man who can hear, touch the shoulder of each who cannot. Unstoppable is also remembered. Now the prisoners. A group of Persian nobles wait with the particular stiffness of men who do not yet know which way their world is tipping. A translator kneels at their side. They are brought into the soft pool of light. One bows too quickly, another too slowly. Alexander greets them in measured Persian, then in Greek for his own men to hear. He does not gloat. He asks after their families, their houses, which fields lie dry, which canals are choked. He is collecting a map you cannot draw, obligations, faces, small debts that bloom into loyalties. Outside the tent, a practical sanctity unfolds. The priests cut a tuft from a white bull's tail, sprinkle barley, raise a prayer to Zeus Megistos, and to Ammon, whose desert words still echo. A sliver of liver is examined, clear, sound, promising a road that will not break its promise. Not everyone believes, but everyone breathes easier. Rituals are the army's lullabies. Across the camp, the companions tell the battle in pieces, arrows that sounded like wasps, a chariot whose scythes were all noise and no bite. Once the formation opened to let it pass, the wedge that punched where the line was thin as ice. Names go round the circle, men who stood, men who fell, men who were funny in the worst moment and kept others from breaking. A helmet is passed with water in it. Someone plays 2 notes on a flute and then changes his mind. Near midnight, a runner from the outposts arrives. Darius has fled towards Arbella. The news is not new, but hearing it aloud sets the air a notch thinner. Alexander listens, head tilted, as if to catch the echo of hoofbeats. The decision is already decided. He's been making it since noon. Pursuit at dawn, but not like a hunt that burns itself out, like a tide. He orders light-armed troops to take only what they can wear. The heavy baggage will follow on the safe road. Bridges are to be watched, fords tested, guides secured, water found and marked. The dark acquires a direction. He steps outside to cool his mind. The camp is a low constellation. He turns once slowly, as if to lay a hand on every light. Tomorrow, he says to no one and to everyone. Not a threat, not a boast, a fact being filed. In his tent, the armour waits like a promise. The lion-faced cuirass, the clean chiton, the worn boots that remember every mile. He eats a fig with the hunger of a man who forgot to be hungry. He writes a short note in his own hand, to his mother, to say he is well, to a friend in Pella, to say the fields here smell of thyme like the hills above Mieza. Small truths are anchors. When he finally lies down, sleep stands at a distance, considering him. The canvas moves gently, breathing with the night. Beyond it, officers finish their orders, grooms rub down horses, a sentinel stamps his feet and whispers a joke to keep his courage warm. Victory is noisy in daylight. At midnight, it is paperwork and kindness. Ropes retied, wounds washed, a road chosen while the ink is still wet. Close your eyes for a moment. Hear the pens scratch. Hear the horses breathe. Hear one young king set his weight on the hinge of the world and feel it swing, quietly, cleanly, towards morning. Chapter 3. Among the Wounded, Lamps, Names and Promises. Let your shoulders drop. The tents are quieter now, the braziers breathing like sleeping animals. Between canvas walls and stacked spears, a thin ribbon of lamplight moves, slow, careful, unhurried. It is the king, and the night makes room for him. He does not arrive with a trumpet of attendance. 2 guards at a distance, a squire with oil and clean cloth, a physician who knows when to speak and when to be silence in human shape. Alexander lifts the tent flap with his own hand. The air inside is warm with breath and herbs and the dull copper memory of blood. Men look up as if a star had stepped indoors. Easy, he says, not loudly. The word lands like a blanket. A boy from Elimea tries to sit up and cannot. His thigh is bandaged thickly, the fabric printed with dark flowers where the blood has pushed through. Alexander kneels so their eyes are level. Name? He asks. The boy gives it, and the village too, as if answering at roll call in a classroom he left years ago. You stood with the Peltasts. A nod, surprised that a king knows the shape of his day. You will stand again, Alexander says, and it is not theatre, it is policy in a softer voice. He touches the edge of the bandage, not the wound. More poppy for him, he tells the physician, and water with honey. Send his cousin word. Let him sleep. At the next pallet, a veteran lies breathing like a bellows. The gash at his ribs shines with salve. He grins when he sees the king, and then winces at his own ambition. You again, Alexander says, with the dry affection of someone who has seen this man cheat worse odds. Was it a chariot this time, or mere heroics? The veteran lifts a hand, waggles it, a little of both. "Save a little heroics for Babylon," the king says, and the tent laughs softly, and a loud laugh, the kind that mends a seam. They go on. Hephaestion follows, passing cups, adding a cloak to a man who shakes. He knows names before they are said. He remembers who has a younger brother in the Hypaspists, who lost a father at Issus, who is afraid of the dark but will never say so. He does not tell them they are brave. He asks where it hurts. That, tonight, is the higher compliment. On a low table a lamp smokes and is trimmed. A Persian surgeon, grey-bearded, eyes like steady wells, waits with respectful caution. He has been taken under protection for the night. Skill outranks uniform when limbs and lives are involved. Alexander nods to him. "Thank you," he says in careful Persian. "We'll need your hands all the way to Susa." The man bows, relief breaking across his face like a wave that finally finds shore. There are losses too, and they are not dodged. A cloak drawn over a still face. A small strip of leather tied to a wrist with a name scratched in it. The quartermasters will see the right letters reach the right door, however far the door. At each such halt, Alexander is quiet. He lifts the edge of the cloak, not to look, but to honour the person within it. He sets a coin by the head, not Charon's fare exactly, but a habit from home, a bright, simple token that says, "You are seen, and you will be spoken of." The priests will sing at dawn. For now, silence fits better. Outside, the ground cools. Dew begins to gather on spear shafts and the long pikes stacked like stripped trees. Somewhere a horse coughs, and another answers, as if reassurance were an animal language too. The king steps out to the hinge between lamplight and night. A runner waits there, hesitant to slice the quiet. "Sire, word from Parmenion. The left is secure. The baggage is counted. The losses recorded." Alexander nods, the acknowledgement small and exact. He asks after the Thessalians, the Agrianians, the archers who ran until their chests were knives. The answers are good enough for now. They cross to a larger shelter where surgery went on until it could not. Bowls of water gone cloudy with the day. At the far end, a captain sleeps with his jaw open, a strip of linen tied around his head to hold a poultice to a slash at his temple. He snores like a saw through soft wood. Hephaestion reaches to adjust the bandage. Alexander catches his wrist. "Let him do battle with a log for once," he murmurs, and they move on. The lamp's circle of light finds a pair of Persians under guard, wounded, not bound. Their swords are elsewhere, their pride is not. The translator steps up, but Alexander speaks first in clumsy yet honest Persian. "Pain is dull in every language," he says. A pause, then, "Eat, sleep, tomorrow we'll talk of service." He does not promise freedom, he promises order, which in this hour is a mercy that tastes even better. Beyond the tents, the night opens into its own large room. Stars are hung like careful punctuation. The sentence of the day is over, but the meaning carries. Alexander stops at the edge, as if listening to the ground take stock of itself. He thinks of the letters sealed earlier, already turning into movement, keys fetched, gates unbarred, markets warned to be brave and open. He thinks, briefly, of Philip, of the boy on a hillside above Mysa, chasing arguments across a page while the cicadas sawed the summer in half. He thinks of water, how much the horses will need, how many skins must be filled before dawn to keep the pursuit from fraying at the edges. He returns the lamp to the squire who guards its flame with his body from a breeze that has learned how to be polite. "We move early," Alexander says, not to hurry the night, but to set it at ease with its ending. He touches Hephaestion's shoulder. "Thank you, and also, sleep if it will have you. Orders are light as thread. They hold more than they weigh." Back in the royal tent, the armour glints, already decided. The map lies where he left it, the charcoal arrows steady, as if the roads themselves had sworn oaths. Before he lies down, he takes up a reed pen and writes a single line on a scrap for himself. No speeches, no mottos, just a reminder. Remember the wounded by name. He folds it, sets it under the rim of the lamp. Outside, the sentries change. A fox raids something that was never quite food. A star slides a finger width along the dark. and across 100 tents, men dream of rivers, kitchens, sisters' voices, olives warmed by a window, a mule with a ridiculous face. The unstoppable thing is not a roar tonight. It is 1,000 small kindnesses moving in one direction. Breathe in, oiled dust, the faint sweetness of crushed thyme. Breathe out. The night has done what it could. When morning lifts the canvas, the road will rise to meet them. And because of this hour of lamps, names and promises, it will not dare to refuse. Chapter 4. The Night Watch. Pickets, fords and farriers. Let the breath settle again. The loud pieces of the day are packed away. What remains is the quiet work that keeps an army from coming apart at the edges. Victory doesn't sleep. It rotates duty. The watch is set in rings. Closest in, among the tents, are the file guards. Men who know each company's voices and can spot a nightmare from an intruder. Beyond them, at the fence of the camp, stand the pickets. Spear planted, cloak pinned high against the dew, faces turned to the dark like listeners at a door. Further still, scattered like small deliberate stars, the outposts. Each has 2 men awake and 2 half-drowsing, a fire smothered to embers and a little pile of stones for a seat. They are the army's eyelids. When they close, everything else would dream too deeply. They do not close. A watchword walks the lines from mouth to mouth, low, careful, passed along like a cup. It is simple for tired tongues, hard for strangers to forge. If a shape moves where no shape should, a quiet challenge rises. The answer returns and the night knits itself smooth again. On a hillock to the east, a signal torch is hoisted and lowered in set beats to tell the commander of the watch that the far edge is calm. Signals are agreed beforehand. 1 for steady, 2 for move, 3 for trouble. No one practices now, they simply remember. Scouts ride out in pairs along the roads that will matter at dawn. They keep to the verges, hooves softened with leather to muffle the beat. Each pair has a local guide, one of those thin men of the plain who know which track is baked hard, which is deceitful dust, which pool will hold until morning and which will vanish into mud under a single bucket. The scouts do not chase shadows. They count how many bridges stand, which timber creaks, where a ford bites at a thigh, where it will only lick the knee. When they return, they don't add adjectives, only numbers and directions. The map in the royal tent gains a second, quieter layer. Water that can be trusted, ground that will not betray a running horse. Back in camp, the farriers make their own small music. File on iron, a soft tap to set a nail, the rasp's dry whisper. Horses stand hip-shot, heads low, eyes half-closed in the comfortable tyranny of good hands. Sweat is brushed to salt, burrs are teased out of manes, girths are checked with a tug that says, "I care and I will not be fooled in the morning." A groom counts pulses with 2 fingers and a patience learned by sleeping in stables. Barley is measured, not guessed at, too much and the belly knots, too little, and a mile later, a rider will curse heaven when it is not heaven's fault. Watering is a cue, nose to tail, a shuffle forward, a dip, a snort, a ripple of contentment. A sentry keeps everyone honest. Quiet order tastes like safety. Pack animals are rebalanced. Loads that lean today are trimmed, rope reknotted where it bit. The heavier kit moved to beasts with the steadier feet. A leather worker stitches through thick hide with a bone needle and a professional's contempt for haste. Sledges for the wounded are inspected and set aside near the companies that will draw them. The men know who they belong to, and consider that knowledge part of their kit. Messengers pad the lanes between units, sand soft under sandals. They carry small orders, the kind that stop big mistakes. Rations for 3 days on the men, not the carts. Lighten the right saddlebag, you'll thank me at the ford. 2 extra ropes per file. No fires on the forward edge after the moon sets. Each note is a single thread. Together, they lace the march. Parmenian's report arrives by steady steps, no drama left in it. The left wing sleeps, the Thessalians are posted along the likely road, their horses tied where the wind will blow from camp, not towards it. The baggage has been pulled into a square, corners guarded by men who like corners. The count of captured carts matches the count of drivers found to move them. The old general's style is not pretty, it is reliable. Alexander reads, nods once, and writes 3 words back that mean continue exactly this. Here and there, loot is gathered under supervision rather than appetite. Standards are stacked. Captured armour is sorted by use, not glitter. Delicate things that will be sent home are wrapped in old cloak linings and tagged with a scribe's neat hand. Spoil without system is just a quarrel postponed until morning. The quartermasters will not have quarrelling if they can help it. At the very edge of the camp, a line of shallow trenches is cut, just enough earth to break a charge, just enough to make a night raid think twice and go elsewhere. Stakes are driven in where the ground is soft. In the hard patches, the men lay thorn and broken brush. There is no boast in this work. It is simply the price of sleeping and waking again. A junior officer walks the path of the morning column with a length of knotted cord. Every 50 paces, he ties a strip of cloth around a stake. In the first grey light, when 1,000 men try to be one shape, those pale flags will be the difference between a tidy tide and a muddled flood. He hums to keep the knots honest. In the royal circle, the council is a short one. The map is weighted at the corners with whatever is nearest, a cup, a knife, a stone from the field that someone liked the look of. Reports arrive and are folded into a plan that does not need to be heroic to be hard. Light troops out at first light to fix the line of the road, companions ready to cut when the opening shows itself. Phalanx to follow, not to chase. Baggage to move last, with a guard who have been told plainly that they are not the rear, they are the base. Hephaestion asks 2 questions about water. Coenus asks one about a ridge that could hide an ambush. Alexander answers all 3 in fewer words than were asked. Nothing here is new to them, that is the point. The night grows thinner. Somewhere a cock crows early because cocks are optimists. The dew puddles in shield bosses and makes the leather straps sigh when they are lifted. A last round of checks. Watch changed, horses quiet, fires as low as they can be without dying. The sentries on the far ridge swap a joke about gods that isn't cruel. A fox, who has been working these lanes longer than any army, pausing to listen before choosing the tent with the best crumbs left. If you listen now, between the soft noises of careful hands, you can hear the shape of a morning being built. One stake, one shoe, one water skin at a time. Unstoppable is not a spell. It's a line of small, exact decisions pointing the same way. Breathe in. Iron filing, damp rope, clean horse. Breathe out. The torches droop, the stars lean west. When the canvas pales, the camp will lift as one. And because the night arranged itself so patiently, the day will have no argument ready. Chapter 5. Stars, Omens, and the Shape of Tomorrow. Let the breath soften again. The fires have lowered to the quiet red of sleeping fruit. Beyond the last ring of tents, the ground runs open, and above it the sky has spread itself like a clean cloak. Here the army is small, and the stars are not. Aristander stands on a rise with a wool cloak about his shoulders and a tablet tucked beneath his arm. He is not a conjurer tonight. He is a book that can be read in low light. 2 assistants hover at the edge of the darkness, keeping a lamp cupped so its glow doesn't bruise the night. The king joins him without ceremony. No guards tight at his back, only the small silence that arrives with him, like a respectful scribe. "Clear?" Aristander says, as if greeting a friend. He points with the soft politeness of a teacher who knows his pupil was first in every class. Orion there, broad as a gate, the dog low to the east, the twins shouldering the horizon, the Pleiades shivering like a thought you nearly remember. Alexander follows the line of the pointing hand. He does not pretend to know more than he does. He has never had to. And what do they say? He asks. Not to be told what to do, but to measure what the men will sleep with. Aristander smiles at the steadiness in that. They say what they usually say. Keep watch, move early, count your water. The Chaldeans would give us a dozen charts for this sky, and all of them would end with a timetable. He lifts the tablet, where he has scratched simple columns. Winds, moonrise, the hour when the frost will turn rope to wire. I will tell them the gods favour us, he adds, kind enough to offer the thing that tastes best at midnight. Alexander glances once along the sky's long edge. Say it, he agrees, and add that the men who water the horses first will carry the favour furthest. He has an affection for omens the way an engineer has for weather, not as a master, but as a condition. The oracle at Siwa still lives inside him like a coal, useful for light, dangerous if carried wrong. They stand a while and practice being small. The ground keeps giving up its day by degrees. The heat from the trampled soil, the smell of thyme bruised under sandals, the ghost of sweat and oil that now lies patient, waiting for morning to wake the armour back to life. Far off a dog calls once, and then thinks better of it. Closer in, a watchman clears his throat, the sound modest as a cough in a library. Aristander breaks the silence as if turning a page. "You've asked that the altars be modest at dawn," he says. "A bull for Zeus Megistos, a ram for Ammon, and barley for the rest. The men listen better when the ritual is simple." "Then keep it simple," Alexander says. "We'll need the time." He looks down at the camp, at the neat, low glow of farriers finishing their last hoof, at the dim lines where the trenches have been cut and brushed with thorn, at the pale ghosts of cloth ties marking the line of march. If Darius keeps to the road, he'll cross the Zab at first light. If he's cleverer than that, he already has. Either way, we'll travel as if water were a bargain we mean to win. Aristander nods approval for the grammar of it. "I have told a few of the loudest sergeants that Mars rises happy," he says, almost cheerful. "You can spend one loud man's belief across 50 careful men if you do the exchange rate right." Alexander laughs, quiet, grateful, short. He is half armour, half young man, and the knight has made a proportion that suits him. "Spend 2 loud men then," he says, "and tell them I listened to you. They'll like that even more than Mars." A messenger arrives at the ridge's foot and waits, not wanting to tread on the king's back with news that can walk. He is waved up. "From the river scouts," he says, breathing like someone who has remembered that lungs exist. "The ford at Kelon is chest deep on a short man, thigh on a tall. Stones sound, bottom firm. A cut bank on the far side for 50 paces, climbable if you don't stop to argue with it." "Good," Alexander says. "Mark the approach with 3 flags and a rope from the nearest carts. Send the companions a note. No heroics in the dark." He turns back to the sky, as if to sign off with it. "We'll cross where the night will forgive us." Aristander's assistants pack the lamp away as one packs a blessing, careful not to spill it. They leave the king to a private minute. He uses it, badly, in the way the best men do, by thinking of small things. The smell of a fig when it is exactly ripe. The way the horse's ears go forward when they hear Hephaestion's step. How the dust at Mieza coated the sandals and turned Aristotle's walks into half-drawn maps. The thought makes him smile, without showing any teeth. He can be sentimental about teachers, it's his one indulgence. In the camp below, the stories of thin to murmurs. A Boeotian tells a Pamphylian about a spring on his father's farm that never dried, no matter how the summer begged it. A Thracian explains for the 10th time that a blade must be oiled after blood, not before. 2 lads from Amphipolis try to remember the second verse of a song and settle for humming the first verse, twice. A darker strip of sky lifts at the eastern edge. Not dawn, not yet, just the warning that the stars are beginning to loosen their knots. Aristander clears his throat with that priestly discretion that says the hour has rolled forward a finger's width. "You should sleep," he tells the king, who has been sleeping on his feet since noon and doing it well. Alexander nods because common sense is a kind of piety too. They walk back towards the tents. On the way, they pass the modest altars, cold piles ready for flame. The barley gleams faintly like a promise. A bull blinks the slow blink of an animal that has never kept a calendar. A boy priest smooths the edge of a cup with his thumb, practicing steadiness. At the tent flap, Alexander pauses, looks once more at the map left under its weights, and then leaves it under them. If you stand where he stands, you can feel how the night has done its quiet arithmetic. Bridges counted, fords sounded, hooves paired, ropes knotted, omens portioned, fear traded for a little order. Unstoppable is not thunder, it is totals adding up. Breathe in. Cold star, warm breath, the faint resin of cut thorn. Breathe out. The sky has written what it will write. The rest is ink and hooves. When the first bird forgets itself and sings, the camp will unroll like a scroll, and the margin between plan and chance will be narrower because of this hour under the stars. Chapter 6. The Inner Circle, Lamps, Maps, and Quiet Arguments. The night keeps its even pulse. In the wide tent where decisions are hung to dry like cloaks, the circle draws in. Not a parade, no helmets, no crests, just men who have carried the day on their shoulders and now set it down carefully to examine the joints. Hephaestion arrives first because he is always already there, even when he is elsewhere. Dust at the edges, eyes that have learned the habits of 100 camps, voice pitched for calm. He does not sit beside Alexander. He occupies the exact distance between friend and officer, and keeps it without fuss. A squire brings figs and watered wine. Nobody pretends hunger is finished with them. Parmenion, the old oaken hinge on which so many mornings have swung, stands over the map, squinting as if the miles could be persuaded to shorten by respect. He taps a knuckle where the road hardens, and crosses the stream. Coenus leans in, crisp as a winter morning, questions ready like spare flints. Craterus, with a soldier's economy, says little and hears everything. The names do not matter as names tonight. What matters is the way their voices make a plait, experience, speed, care. Alexander listens as if there were nothing left to prove. He has learned that victory opens the door to error. The quiet after triumph is the most dangerous room in the house. "We'll not scatter," he says, drawing a small semicircle with a finger on the map. "No hunting alone, no charges that make good stories and bad sense." The line of his mouth inclines. More than one man in the tent has turned such a charge into a myth and survived it. Everyone understands the joke without needing it told. Parmenion asks for time to draw up the phalanx if the pursuit stalls. "Not to crush, just to anchor," he says. Alexander nods. "Anchor," he repeats. "The tide moves faster if it trusts its harbour." Coenus raises the matter of guides. He wants them in pairs, from different villages, tied by different fears. Craterus wants more axes with the light troops. Bridges have a habit of becoming problems when logic would prefer they did not. Hephaestion says nothing until the first round settles. Then he speaks of water, how it pools in the hollows near dawn, and how men spill it when they hurry. "Set lads with ropes at the crossings," he says. "They'll laugh at being lifelines until someone thanks them for it." They talk, and every sentence is smaller than pride. That is how good plans sound. A runner brings a note. The Agrianians have placed thorn along the north edge. The pickets are relieved. The stolen Persian carts creak less since a farrier listened to them and taught them courtesy. Another note says the priests have the altars laid, that the bull blinks his slow blink as if eternity were a boredom he has learned to bear. Alexander asks after the wounded again, not to hear the list a second time, but to set the rhythm of care beside the beat of pursuit. "Names," he says, and Hephaestion answers with 3, and the places they come from, and the man who swore to sit with them until light. The campaign is kept upright with timbers like these. A draft of proclamations lies cooling under sand. "Mercy to the gates that open," Alexander says. "No cruelty for its own theatre. We can be many things. Let tomorrow's market call us safe for business." The scribe's right, and the word safe is the sharpest in the tent. The argument, when it comes, is gentle. Parmenion wants a slower dawn. Alexander wants the first light to be spent like coin. If Darius burns the boats behind him, Parmenion says, he will try to burn our morning. Alexander shakes his head, an economy of motion. He burns his own roads first, he answers. He fears his rear more than our front. They end as they usually end, on a compromise that both of them can march behind. The youth and the age of the army shake hands and call the handshake policy. When they are done, the map is left under weights that once lived as stones in a foreign field. Lamps are turned down. Men step into the cooler air and find that their legs still carry purpose, even when the tongue has spent its share. Hephaestion lingers a moment. "Sleep," he says, which is both an order and a blessing. Alexander smiles, the small, unguarded one reserved for someone who knows the first drafts of his thoughts. "If it will have me," he replies. Outside, the sentries trade the watchword, and the tent remembers how to be quiet canvas again. Chapter 7. Bucephalus. Leather, breath, and the measure of a mile. Somewhere, a horse snorts softly, the sound like a bell in a glove. Follow it through lanes of tent ropes and sleeping men, and you reach the king's small, particular stable. Not grand, just arranged, exactly. A bridle hangs with the bit polished by habit into a kind of gentleness. A pad, a cloth, a currycomb that has travelled more miles than many soldiers. Bucephalus breathes out as Alexander steps near, not the theatrical greeting of a parade animal, the quiet recognition of two creatures who know each other's weight. The stallion's eye is dark and amused. He has learned the world's size through the scent in a wind, the bite of a bit, the length of a stride that never lies. He stills for the comb, his skin shivering under it, the way a lake shivers under a breeze. Dust rises and settles like evening light. The grooms work lightly that precise mixture of affection and respect that horsemen learn when they are young. One checks the hooves, no stone hiding in the cleft, no crack needing grease. Another measures barley with the carefulness of a scribe. Alexander runs a hand along the neck and feels the long muscles answer. "Tomorrow," he says, and the horse answers by not moving. They have miles together, the skittish colt who would only trust a boy who turned him to face the sun, the long afternoons on the banks of the Axius, the deep, salt ache in the legs after Issus, the stunned silence of Siwa's sand, the shallow water crossings where the river worked to turn certainty into laughter. Bucephalus has learned the grammar of battle, the forward lean that means now, the tightening of knee that means hold, the loosening breath that forgives the world for being loud. A squire oils the leather with a rag, bringing back the dark shine that a good strap deserves. "Not too much," he mutters, more to himself than to anyone else. Sloppy tack is a lie the morning will expose without mercy. The breastband is checked and rechecked. The buckles sit where they will not chafe. The girth is left to the last, a promise deferred. Alexander rests his forehead against the horses, a boy's habit that age has not chased away. The stallion's breath warms his cheek. In that small pocket of quiet the king performs his own inventory. How many cups of water remain between here and the ford? How long a wounded peltast can be carried before men's kindness becomes their undoing? Which officer needs praise more than sleep? Which sergeant needs the opposite? The horse does not answer. Which is the answer he needs? The mind settles when the hands are busy, and the companion is an animal that has never once lied. Hephaestion arrives grinning at the sight he has seen 1,000 times. "He still lets you think you're in charge," he says. Alexander strokes the jawline that has learned the bit's language. "He is in charge," he replies, "of whether I reach the end of a thought." They stand together, men who have ridden abreast through mornings that tried to argue them into stopping. The grooms, sensing their audience of two, square buckles as if straightening the hems of a story. When they lead Bucephalus out to a picket line where he can see the first ideas of dawn, the horse turns his ear to the east the way an officer tilts his head when a plan acquires a hinge. He lowers his head and sleeps standing, 3 legs locked, one relaxed, an artist's signature at the bottom of a long canvas. Alexander watches a moment more, then leaves him to the wise, slow rhythms that keep warhorses sane. Some kings are crowned in gold. Some carry their crown on 4 legs and a back that has learned the weight of history. The knight nods, satisfied with its inspection. Leather sighs, breath evens. The mile to morning is measured not in distance now, but in readiness. Chapter 8. New subjects, translators, signets, and the price of order. Under a lantern that has been taught to glow politely, a line of men waits, Persian commanders, officials, stewards of estates, guardians of warehouses stuffed with cloth and oil and grain. They have learned to stand when the world tips. Their faces have practiced dignity until it can survive anything. Some fear, some calculate. All understand that the grammar of obedience has new verbs tonight. The translator is a man with 2 mother tongues and the patience of a man with 3 grown sons. He kneels, sits, rises, moves between Persian and Greek and back again, smoothing the corners from the edges of words that could cut. Names are given, both the long, formal ones that taste of lineage and the short ones that friends use when the lamp is out. Each man offers a signet. Each signet is returned. The smallest gestures are the largest currencies. Alexander does not hurry them. Mercy is a performance, yes, but only in the way a welcome is. Keep your offices, he says. Keep your gods, keep your markets open and your roads honest. Bring the keys of your storehouses to my quartermasters, and they will seal them with you, not against you. My garrisons will be housed and paid and will pay. Those who pay them twice will be disappointed. The translator makes it sound like a proverb. The Persians nod as if they recognize it. An older satrap with a careful beard asks about taxes. His question is the question of a man who has seen governors come and go, and always keeps a purse hidden where the fire won't find it. If the harvest was poor, Alexander says, the tax is light. If the harvest is good, it is on time. If a collector steals on the way to me, I will make an example that discourages poetry. Calm laughter rolls and is put away quickly. The tent remains a room for seriousness. A younger noble who smells of saffron and risk watches the king's hands as much as his face. He is learning the new theatre, where the pauses are, how the humour lands, what kind of anger is a tool, and what kind is a storm. When he speaks, it is to offer the names of 3 men who can supply camels by dawn, and a map that only tide men know, to a ford nobody from the high roads uses. Alexander listens as if the man were reciting a psalm. He takes the map, weighs it with his finger, and passes it to Hephaestion with a glance that says, "Test this quietly. Rewards will come if the ford is where the ink claims it is."
The line thins. At the end, 2 temple wardens step forward, holding a small chest between them. They speak of statues, of sacred fires that must not go out, of stipends that keep channels open between the fearful human and the indifferent divine. Alexander has been taught enough of such matters to answer without offence. The gods keep their own accounts, he says, but men must eat to sing to them. The stipends continue. Any man who touches the scales in a temple will answer to me as if he had struck my mother. The translators do not tone this down. It does not require toning. When it is done, the officials step back into the night and the new arithmetic begins. Letters to their stewards, messengers sent to unlock storehouses under the eyes of both old guards and new, 1,000 tiny agreements that keep a city from breaking under rumour. The army wins fields, empires are won with receipts. Behind the tent, the quartermasters chalk crates with a double mark, Persian inventory, Macedonian seal. A clerk records who stood with whom and who looked at the ground when a name was spoken. Not all loyalty is immediate. Some of it grows in the right weather. The lamp guttering at last is trimmed. The interpreter is given bread, cheese and a cup of wine, because words too march. Out in the lanes, the men of the camp feel something loosen. It is not compassion for the enemy. It is the sense that tomorrow will not be wasted on disorder. Open gates, open shops, somebody says, and the phrase travels like a joke that makes breakfast easier. Mercy is not softness. It is a speed advantage, dressed as grace.